there's so much effort and so much out there on Instagram and on TikTok about romantic relationships and, watching out for red flags in romantic relationships, but there's not a lot out there on red flags in friendships. And if you've got these people-pleasing dynamics and this fawn trauma response and these patterns, chances are that this is playing out in multiple of your relationships. You have a responsibility to yourself and also to others and really to your future friendships to really change this behavior.
Hannah Hotline, how can I redirect your call? Oh, hello. Hi, I have a really big problem at
Dear
work.
Hannah Hotline,
I don't really like my boss.
I'm really attracted to the guy I work with, but
I just want to say no, but I say
it's
yes.
my self-esteem, Maybe it's burnout. This is the operator putting you through now.
Hey hotties, welcome back to Hannah Hotline. So pumped to be here with you today. Today, we have got another juicy listener email about a listener who has toxic friends and she wants new ones. This is something I see a lot, especially with millennial women. We're at a stage where maybe you have had childhood friends. They don't really have the same value system as you anymore, or your friendships you realize have like toxic patterns of behavior, and you don't really know what to do to move forward. So I'm just going to dive right in and read the listener email. Hey, Hannah. I'm a high performer in my corporate job, and I'm realizing I have a pattern of attracting really difficult friends. I work long hours and I'm often exhausted, but I still say yes to everyone. I have this friend from high school who's gotten increasingly problematic with drinking. Last time I saw her, she had 5 martinis, lost her phone at some stranger's place, and ended up pissing in the street. Yeesh. She apologized the next day while still drunk. But it's not just her. I'm noticing that several of my friends actually put me down or come at me aggressively. One friend recently told me, "You're not that great," when I mentioned a guy being interested in me. Oh my God, that's horrific. Another constantly turns our hangouts into therapy sessions where she dumps all of her work drama on me. I realized I've been attracted to confident, chaotic people because I thought they were more interesting than me. But now I'm burned out from work and in my friendships. How do I break this cycle without losing everyone? Love, lonely, and burned out. Okay, well, I just want to normalize this and also just really extend some compassion here, because it sounds like you're dealing with very difficult characters. You've got one friend who's drunk, pissing in the street, leaving your phone all over. You've got another friend who is putting you down. So there's a real recalibration that needs to happen here of what your friendships look like. So first I want to look at, okay, what is kind of the root cause here? And I would say, like a lot of the emails that I get, just realizing if there is a lot of people-pleasing patterns here, and what you said about, I seek out really confident people who appear, act a certain way, but then they're really chaotic, and understanding why it is that you do that. Does that mirror something that was happening in your family system? Let's say with one of your parental figures, or potentially with one of your siblings. Did you have someone that was quite chaotic but seemed really confident on the outside that really drew you in there? And sometimes what starts to happen in these dynamics is you have one person who, let's say, is kind of more of a fawn people pleaser. If you haven't listened to the episode on the fawn trauma response that I recorded a few months ago, I would highly recommend going back and listening to that, because it does sound like there's some real fawn responses going on here, especially if someone feels like it's okay to tell you, you're not that great when a guy is being interested in you, or if someone thinks it's okay to drink 5 martinis, lose their phone, piss on the street, say mean things to you. That's a real sign that something in your behavior is also, and I don't want to victim blame here, of course, that's really not what we're doing. But I think taking an inventory of, where am I responsible in this situation? Where have I potentially spotted red flags in friends and not walked away? If these are childhood friends, these are dynamics that have played out, sometimes potentially for 20 plus years, so they are harder to change. But just knowing that, starting off, you have a responsibility to yourself and also to others, and really to your future friendships, to really change this behavior. So let's look at, what are the red flags that you're recognizing here? So you've got friends that constantly put you down. You've got friends that are acting in a certain way. And I would actually take an inventory of all of your friendships. So I would write down all of your friendships, and I would just very actually blatantly write out what are the red flags. And a lot of people do this in romantic relationships, where there's so much effort and so much out there on Instagram and on TikTok about romantic relationships and, watching out for red flags in romantic relationships, but there's not a lot out there on red flags in friendships. And if you've got these people-pleasing dynamics and this fawn trauma response and these patterns, chances are that this is playing out in multiple of your relationships. So once you take an inventory of it, and you could even say, this person gets blacked out, this person puts me down, this is examples, this person comes at me and says things. Here are all examples of what they say. So you can really obviously see that. So that's step one, is write down all the red flags. Now, step two is I would almost create, what does an ideal friendship look like to you? Now, again, so many people do this in romantic relationships, 6'5" finance, whatever, 400K, whatever that is. But I want you to think, okay, if I could make my ideal type of friendship, what would they be like? What characteristics would they be? Even what career would they have? And I know for me, I actually did this very same exercise last year when I really wanted to get very intentional with my friendships. And I was like, okay, I am noticing some red flags come up in friendships, and I really want to be intentional about who I let into my life, who I'm deciding who comes, who goes, and what does that ideal friendship really look like for me? What type of careers do they have? How do they treat me? What's their emotional regulation like? Are they constantly dumping on me, or are they also asking me questions? So get really granular and specific about what it is that a friend wants. Then I would ask yourself, am I that person for friends as well? Are you emotionally regulated? Are you calm and confident? Are you asking about them as much as they're asking about you? Are you really encouraging people? And you want to be sure that your behavior is reciprocal to what you want, not just expecting people to be a great friend to you, but then you not returning the favor. What I would also do here as well is really consider, there's a few things that you can do with your existing friends. Now, when we talk about boundaries can also be such a harsh word. I also encourage you that if you are having a conversation with someone about this, not to actually say the word boundary, because that can cause defensiveness. But you have a few different options with your friends. You can actually just make a blanket rule, and I really encourage you to, that you're not going to be friends with people that put you down. You're not going to be friends with people that come at you. Your friend that said, why are you so great? I would actually reconsider that friendship with someone. And this doesn't need to be like a big, there doesn't need to necessarily be a big conversation. There doesn't necessarily need to be a friendship breakup, but it could just actually be a slow fade. It could be you not initiating plans and really looking at, what does your value system look like? If someone gets blacked out and has 5 martinis and is pissing in the street and you don't drink, that's probably not a friendship where the values are really aligned. Now, you can actually decide, is this something that I want to say? Is this friendship someone really important to me? Then I would, if they are a friend that's really important to you, then I would definitely say something. And if they're a friendship that you want to keep, and you could say something like, I was really hurt when you said this to me, or it didn't really feel good when you were getting blacked out or when you were getting blacked out at dinner and I wasn't drinking, I felt disrespected in that moment. You can definitely say something like that. Or you can also just create a boundary with yourself that is saying, I'm not actually going out to dinner or being in environments with alcohol with this specific person. I know that I've had clients or even friends who, let's say, have an alcoholic parent, and they've said, I don't answer their phone calls past 7 p.m. because I know that they're drinking, or I don't stay past 7 p.m. or I don't go to dinner with this person. So really kind of thinking, what are the internal boundaries that you can create with yourself and the parameters of the friendship where you want to make the friendship workable for you. And it could just be like declining dinners and saying, no, I'd rather go for brunch instead, and making sure that brunch has no mimosas. Or it could just be saying, no, I would rather actually go for a walk or go for a coffee or go shopping, whatever it is. But with these certain friendships, it's really deciding, do you want to keep them in your life, or are they friendships that you actually don't really want to keep? And knowing that it doesn't need to be a big thing. You can actually just stop initiating, and that's fine too. Also, if you do have people-pleasing tendencies and kind of more of a fawn trauma response, this likely will cause a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and even terror. And you might feel like a terrible person for that. You might feel like you are a bad person, that you're a bad friend, and know that those reactions are really normal. And it's almost like holding yourself in that moment, because that is usually a very young reaction from a young part of you. So it's just holding yourself in that moment and telling yourself, actually, no, it's okay. I know that I'm scared, but I'm doing this for a future longer term. I'm doing this so that I can invite friends into my life that are really caring, really loving. I know I feel some shame. I might even feel some terror. That's also okay. So just be prepared that this likely isn't going to feel good, especially if you've tolerated this behavior for a really long time. This will likely feel really bad. That's okay. Being able to hold yourself through it. Now, the next thing is I would do an inventory of who are the friends in your life that maybe don't get as much airtime, but you have and you really like, and you'd like to invest more time with them. Because usually when you've got a bit of toxic people in your life, they might be the ones that are creating plans with you all the time, reaching out to you all the time. And especially if you're already exhausted and you're high achieving, you have a corporate job, you don't have all the time in the world. So can you decrease time with these other friends that you're calling toxic? And then who are the friends that you do really want to be intentional with? Can you be more proactive? So instead of thinking that you have to make new, like completely new friends, which is hard as an adult, that is very challenging. Think about, who do I already have in my circle that I can deepen the connection with? What are the things that I'd like to do with them? Because the people that aren't really violating your boundaries, the people that aren't really coming at you, they're likely not going to be chasing you for plans all the time. So look in your inner circle first before trying to create new friends, and really see if you can deepen those connections. And also, really be truthful to yourself about what are the activities that you like to do. I said on one of my previous podcasts with Corey Welsh, I don't drink. I'm basically like a fucking monk. So I don't do like really crazy things, but I do like to go to concerts, and I really love things that are tactile. I had a gingerbread house making night. That was really fun for my friends. I'm having like a Galentine's cookie decorating thing in February that I'm about to send invites for. So I've been like really, really creative about what are the things that I want to do that are going to fit within my social circle. And it can think out of the box here. Maybe if you really love to go for walks, start going to walks with your friends. For me, I rarely see friends at night. I just don't really like to go out at night. Like Chris and I go to nice dinners, my husband, but I would say I don't really go out to dinner. A lot of my friends have children now as well, so schedules look differently. But really think, what is it that I want to do? And then invite your friends to do that. So good luck with this. And just know that this can change. This can change at any age. You can meet some of your best friends when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. It doesn't need to say this, but really having like a lot of this does come down to self-esteem. And having the self-esteem to say, I actually don't tolerate being treated poorly. I don't like friends in my life who say mean things to me. I don't like friends in my life who black out. This is not what I want to invite into my life. I really want to invite people that align in my value system, and that's totally okay. And know that you can actually do that and you can change this. And it is about having the self-esteem and taking these small steps, holding yourself when you feel that shame, fear, guilt, and being okay with that, and knowing that even if you're in a lot of pain from it in the short term, in the longer term, you're really doing things and taking action to have the type of life and friendships that you want. So thank you, Hannah Hotties, for another great episode. If this is something that you want to focus on, we indirectly focus on things like this in the life and work transformation, which is really about, people like really ambitious professionals who want to overcome self-doubt in their careers. They want to become more confident. They want to actually thrive in all areas of their life. I highly encourage you guys to apply if you feel like this episode really spoke to you. And also if you want a community of like-minded professionals who are really values driven. The community is absolutely amazing. I always say I have a really phenomenal client base, which I love. So the next cohort starts January 30th. Hope to see you there. You can find all the application info in the show links below. And if you have an email, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from the listeners. Tell me all of your problems. You can email hello@hannahkissel.com if you want to be featured on the podcast. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Hannah Hotties.
Hannah Hotline. Email her and you'll be fine. When your brain goes bing, bang, bang, bing, boom. Email Hannah Hotline.
Hotline is sponsored by Dominic Jingles, where quirky, clever and corporate branding is reimagined. DM Dominic on Instagram at Dominic Jingles or email dominicenglish04@gmail.com.